Welcome to the debate. Imagine standing on the bridge of a 150,000-ton cargo ship right in the dead center of the Pacific Ocean.
Just completely isolated.
Exactly. You are thousands of miles from civilization. You're surrounded by nothing but the mechanical hum of the engine and just this vast, dark expanse of water. For centuries, that exact scenario meant absolute, profound isolation. You cross the horizon and the terrestrial world simply ceased to exist for you.
Right. The sea used to mean a complete disconnection from the shore, but now, the shore is sitting right there on the navigation console.
Yeah, it really is, because suddenly your pocket buzzes with a WhatsApp message or, a TikTok notification or a live video call from your family. And that is because we are witnessing the introduction of revolutionary high-speed, low Earth orbit internet to commercial maritime operations.
This Starlink systems and things like that.
Precisely. We are talking about LEO satellite systems boasting up to 300 megabits per second download speeds, and the latency is dropping down to an astonishing 20 to 50 milliseconds. That's fiber optic level connectivity, completely unrestricted, available in the literal middle of the ocean.
Which is a technological marvel. It absolutely is. But it effectively takes the persistent, hyper-connected, endlessly distracting environment of modern shore life and just drops it directly onto the bridge of a continuously operating, highly volatile, safety-critical vessel.
And that tension is exactly what we are debating today, because this LEO technology has definitively solved the maritime industry's oldest and most painful problem, which is the psychological toll of isolation. I will be arguing that unrestricted internet access is just a necessary welfare upgrade. Seafarers are highly trained professionals who will naturally learn to self-regulate their digital consumption, just as the rest of us do. Treating connectivity as a fundamental human right outweighs these transitional challenges.
In my position is that these digital platforms are explicitly, algorithmically engineered to defeat human self-regulation. Introducing unlimited, unstructured access within a safety-critical system creates systemic attention fragmentation. It causes deep digital fatigue. So this isn't just a conversation about keeping the crew happy, right? This critically compromises maritime safety, and it requires strict institutional control.
Well, let's start with how human beings actually behave when they are introduced to new comforts in isolated environments. Because history shows us a distinct pattern of normalization. There is a famous story in maritime circles from about 25 years ago. Back then, packaged fruit juices, specifically mango juice, in Tetra Paks, were newly introduced on board commercial ships.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Right. Because it was a rare luxury, it was highly restricted. It was issued by the steward in very small quantities. And, well, what happened? The crew hoarded it. Entire cases would magically vanish from the provision stores in the middle of the night. It became this highly coveted contraband. But then, one captain decided to run an experiment. He simply took all the mango juice, put it openly in the crew freezer, and told everyone they could have as much as they wanted, whenever they wanted.
And I imagine they drank the ship dry in a week.
Initially, yes. The consumption spiked massively because it was a novelty. But very quickly, within a voyage or two, the demand completely stabilized. Once the restriction was gone, the obsession just evaporated. Today, juice holds minimal attraction on board. And my core argument is that unrestricted high-speed internet will follow this exact same behavioral pattern.
You think it's just a novelty phase?
Exactly. If you lock it down, it becomes an obsession. But if you open it up, the novelty wears off, and highly trained watchkeepers will treat it like any other background utility. We have shore-based duty superintendents who stay online constantly, right? They deal with the barrage of emails and notifications, but they still respond effectively to emergencies. Imposing strict usage controls on board undermines trust. It treats highly trained professionals as if they lack basic discipline.
I hear that argument, and look, it's a great story, but we are ignoring a massive technological distinction here. That juice analogy fundamentally misrepresents the exact nature of the technology we are dealing with.
How so? It's human behavior.
Because mango juice is a passive commodity. It has a finite limit to its appeal. Eventually, you literally get full. Your stomach says no more, and its appeal declines with biological satiation. A smartphone, connected to a 300 Mbps LEO satellite, is an active system offering an infinite stream of content. It is an endless buffet designed by thousands of engineers specifically to prevent you from getting full. It is designed to keep you eating.
But again, these are professionals. They know they have a job to do.
But a ship is not a shore office. That is a dangerous false equivalence. If you are listening to this while working at a desk, checking your phone every 10 minutes might just mean a delayed email or, a momentary lapse in a spreadsheet. The environment absorbs your error. At sea, errors are not absorbed. They translate immediately into physical consequences. And the risk isn't merely about a sailor holding a phone and actively scrolling while looking out the window. It is about attention fragmentation and the residual cognitive load that is carried into those operational duty cycles.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. Because distraction on board a ship is not a new phenomenon. It didn't arrive with Elon Musk and low Earth orbit satellites. Seafarers have always had downtime on the bridge. They've had books, magazines, crosswords, guitars.
Sure.
During a long, quiet ocean transit in the middle of the Pacific, where you might not see another vessel for 3 days, a watchkeeper might read a paperback. Why is internet scrolling suddenly being treated as this unique, unprecedented existential threat, rather than just another form of mental engagement that a trained watchkeeper knows exactly when to put down?
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. The cognitive mechanics of reading a paperback and interacting with a smartphone are fundamentally neurologically different. A paperback book doesn't buzz in your pocket to demand your attention when you're looking through the binoculars. Let's look at the hard cognitive science on this.
Okay, let's hear it.
There's a 2026 study published in Computers and Human Behavior that looked exactly at this phenomenon. And it established a terrifying metric. A single smartphone notification disrupts a person's cognitive concentration for approximately 7 seconds.
7 seconds? I mean, in the grand scheme of a 4-hour watch, 7 seconds doesn't immediately strike me as a catastrophic loss of focus.
Well, it is when you consider the core finding of that study. It is the frequency of the interruptions, not the total screen time, that degrades cognitive ability. If you are reading a book, your attention is unified. You are in a flow state, and you can easily look up, check the horizon, and look back down. But if your phone is buzzing with WhatsApp messages from home, news alerts, social media notifications, your attention is continuously fracturing.
So it's the constant pulling away of the attention.
Exactly. That 7-second latency happens dozens of times an hour. The study proved that this specific type of fragmentation leads directly to slower anomaly detection. It drastically weakens a watchkeeper's discipline in monitoring critical navigational aids.
You're talking about the radar in the electronic charts?
Right. Things like the ARPA, the automatic radar plotting aid that tracks the speed and trajectory of other vessels, and the ECDIS, the electronic chart display that literally keeps the ship from running aground. These systems require deep, uninterrupted pattern recognition. If your phone buzzes, you might look at the ECDIS screen, but for those next 7 seconds, your brain isn't processing the depth contours. Your brain is trying to resolve the social anxiety of the text message you just received. You are looking, but you aren't seeing.
And that constant fracturing of attention brings us to the physical toll, which is a major concern. If we are worried about the cognitive loads making watchkeepers tired, I have to compare this so-called digital fatigue to traditional physical labor fatigue.
Okay.
The maritime industry isn't the Wild West anymore. We have the Maritime Labor Convention, the MLC, from 2006, which strictly governs hours of work and rest globally. Every single seafarer is legally mandated to get specific, uninterrupted hours of rest. So isn't a rest period just a rest period? If a seafarer is in their cabin, off watch, and adhering to their watch cycles, shouldn't those hours be entirely sufficient to absorb any supposed digital fatigue?
That entirely assumes the rest period actually provides physiological rest. The 2025 Frontiers in Public Health Review, alongside a massive multi-method analysis on seafarers, completely upends that assumption. Digital fatigue is not just a feeling. It is a measurable physiological phenomenon, and it actively, aggressively interferes with sleep recovery patterns.
How so? If I'm lying in my bunk watching YouTube, my body is resting. My muscles are recovering from the shift.
Your muscles might be, but your nervous system is not. Continuous digital interaction involves intense blue light exposure, rapid dopamine loops, and the high cognitive arousal of endless scrolling. This cocktail specifically disrupts the brain's ability to enter REM and deep, restorative slow-wave sleep. And this is incredibly dangerous because of the specific grueling way ships operate. We use highly structured watchkeeping cycles, typically 4 hours on, followed by 8 hours off around the clock.
Right, so you might work 8 a.m. to noon, then 8 p.m. to midnight.
Exactly. And that 8-hour off-duty window is already incredibly tight. In those 8 hours, you have to hand over the watch, walk down from the bridge, eat a meal, shower, decompress, perhaps do some laundry, and try to sleep. If a seafarer spends 2 of those precious hours doom scrolling or emotionally engaged in a heated family group chat from halfway across the world, their nervous system remains highly activated.
They aren't winding down.
No, they finally close their eyes, but they don't get the deep sleep they need to repair their cognitive faculties. They return to the bridge for their next 4-hour watch, physically present but cognitively depleted. Over a 2-week voyage, this creates a compounding, slow-motion collapse of situational awareness.
That's an interesting point, though I would frame it differently. Because we're talking about cumulative depletion and theoretical cognitive risks like they are absolute certainties. But we really need to look at the broader, daily reality of the industry. Every single day, thousands of ships operate globally. They are navigating incredibly complex waterways, like the Strait of Malacca, the English Channel, all while carrying these high-speed Starlink systems.
Yes, they are.
And the vast, overwhelming majority of them do it completely without incident. I worry that we are taking extreme, isolated examples of bad behavior or poor personal time management and allowing them to overshadow the daily, incident-free reality of modern maritime operations.
I come at it from a different way. These aren't theoretical risks, and they aren't just isolated bad apples who lack discipline. They are predictable human factor failures surfacing in the real world. The accident reports are becoming undeniable. Let's look at the UK Marine Accident Investigation Branch guidance. They ran simulations and analyzed real-world data, finding that personnel distracted by personal devices can miss up to 50% of critical visual and audio information. 50%.
Wow. That sounds like inattentional blindness. You know, you're staring right at the radar screen, an alarm is flashing in your peripheral vision, but your brain simply drops the information because its bandwidth is occupied elsewhere.
Exactly. And the wreckage from this phenomenon is highly documented. We don't have to guess what happens. Look at the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board report from 2022, detailing the collision between the fishing vessel Thunder and the bulk carrier Balloon Queen.
Walk us through that one, because I know the details there are striking.
It's a perfect example of what we're talking about. You have 2 massive vessels converging. The officer of the watch on the Thunder was actively distracted by non-operational personal cell phone use. Because his attention was fractured, he completely failed to maintain a proper lookout. He wasn't tracking the ARPA, he wasn't looking out the window, he was absorbed in the device. He missed the developing close-quarter situation entirely, and the vessels collided.
Just completely missed it.
Yes. Thousands of tons of steel tearing into each other because of a screen. Or look at the 2024 ATSB report regarding the Maersk Chicago colliding with the tall ship Lewin II. The secondary pilot, who's supposed to be providing crucial situational awareness to the team, was engaged in a non-essential personal phone call.
So you don't just see this as a coincidence of bad timing. You see a direct causal chain linking the Wi-Fi to the disaster.
It is a clear, undeniable linear progression. Connectivity introduces attention fragmentation. That fragmentation ruins sleep, which leads to fatigue. The fatigue causes a critical situational awareness loss, and that loss finally results in an incident. It is a domino effect initiated the moment that unrestricted bandwidth hits the bridge.
Okay, well, I will acknowledge the severity of the accident data. The Thunder incident is chilling, especially when you think about how easily avoidable it was. But this brings us to the operational solution, and this is where I really challenge your perspective. How can the industry possibly mitigate this risk without reverting to draconian dystopian surveillance?
It's a tough balance.
Because the reaction from some shipping companies has been terrifying. In some Far Eastern fleets right now, they aren't just making rules, they are installing AI-enabled infrared cameras on the bridge.
Right. The digital panopticon.
Exactly. Even in a pitch-black bridge environment, the computer vision maps the skeletal posture of the officers. If an officer simply raises their hand to their ear, mimicking holding a phone, the AI instantly triggers a real-time alert in the master's cabin and automatically generates a disciplinary log entry. It's Orwellian. How does that system work in terms of morale?
It doesn't.
It completely evaporates the massive mental health and welfare benefits that this high-speed connectivity was supposed to bring in the first place. You simply cannot treat highly trained professionals like inmates and expect to foster a healthy, communicative safety culture.
I actually agree with you completely on that point. AI surveillance and posture tracking is exactly the wrong path. It breeds resentment and it actively degrades the safety culture, mainly because people focus on beating the camera rather than navigating the ship. But the alternative to AI surveillance isn't just throwing our hands up and hoping for the best with an open Wi-Fi network. The solution is what I call structured freedom. We must replace binary restrictions, where it's either totally blocked or totally open, with intelligent integration.
And what does structured freedom actually look like in practice on a commercial vessel that runs operations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
It breaks down into 4 operational phases, deeply rooted in human psychology and network engineering. First, zero tolerance for personal device use while on watch. No exceptions, no gray areas. Second, a defined pre-watch transition buffer.
Like a sterile cockpit rule in aviation?
Precisely. Just like pilots preparing for a critical flight, watchkeepers need a defined period before they step onto the bridge where high-engagement digital activity is avoided. No doom scrolling right before you take the con. This ensures their cognitive baseline is reset and their eyes and brain are adapted for the real world, not a backlit screen.
Okay, and the third phase?
Third is post-watch recovery, which focuses on significantly reducing screen time right before sleep to protect those vital 4-hour recovery cycles we talked about earlier. Get the blue light out of the equation so the REM cycle can actually happen.
I understand the theory behind those first 3 phases, but, well, they sound an awful lot like rules that rely entirely on the honor system. Without the AI surveillance you just agreed we shouldn't use, how do you enforce a pre-watch cognitive reset?
That is exactly where the 4th phase comes in, which is the technological enabler. Bandwidth structuring. Instead of restricting access through rules and cameras, you allocate the actual internet bandwidth intelligently using the ship's network hardware. The ship's IT system geofences the Wi-Fi.
Oh, interesting.
Right. It routes the massive 300 Mbps bandwidth to the crew quarters, the mess hall, and the recreational areas during off-duty periods. But it actively throttles or restricts non-operational bandwidth on the bridge and in the cabins during critical rest or watch hours. You aren't confiscating anyone's phone. You are designing the digital environment so that operational discipline is simply the path of least resistance.
Which of course requires the master and the senior officers to genuinely lead by example. Because if the network allows the captain a bypass and the captain is scrolling on the bridge during a critical maneuver, the junior officers will immediately see that the rules are a sham and just follow suit.
Absolutely. Leadership signal is everything in a closed environment like a ship. If the discipline isn't highly visible at the very top of the command chain, the entire structure collapses, no matter how clever your router settings are.
Well, this has been a fascinating exploration. Let's pull back and summarize where we've landed today. From my perspective, the introduction of high-speed, low-Earth orbit internet to the maritime world is fundamentally an issue of human dignity, mental well-being, and retaining talented seafarers in an incredibly demanding, isolated profession. We cannot afford to move backward and cut these people off from their families again. While the cognitive risks and the accident reports you've outlined are entirely valid and sobering, I maintain that treating seafarers as responsible professionals, giving them the tools to adapt to technological shifts, and learning to manage their own digital habits is the only sustainable path forward. We finally have the cure for maritime isolation, and we must not let the fear of this transition prevent us from fully embracing it.
And I agree with you completely that connectivity is a fundamental human right for modern crews. It is as vital to their survival and sanity out there as air, food, and rest. We cannot and should not take it away. but we have to respect the biology of the brain. Unlimited, unstructured access to algorithmic feeds within a safety-critical system creates entirely predictable human factor failures. The accident reports from vessels like the Thunder prove that the human brain cannot overcome engineered distraction simply through willpower. Access to the outside world must be protected, absolutely, but the watchkeeper's attention to the horizon must be protected even more. Structured freedom is the only way we get both.
It is a delicate, high-stakes balance. And the tension between crew welfare and operational integrity is clearly going to be an ongoing evolution in the maritime industry for years to come. Both of our perspectives highlight crucial insights into how human behavior bends under cognitive load and isolation. I highly encourage anyone listening to explore this topic further, because understanding how we introduce modern addictive technology to historic, high-risk operating environments has implications far beyond the shipping industry.
It really forces all of us to ask a difficult question about what we value more in any given moment: our endless connection to the digital world or our vital connection to the task directly in front of us.
Indeed. Because out there, looking over the vast expanse of the ocean, the historic silence of the bridge has been permanently broken. The profound question now is whether the ping of a smartphone can safely coexist with the unforgiving realities of the sea, or if that tiny distraction in a watchkeeper's pocket will be the very thing that blinds us to the danger on the horizon. Thank you for joining us.